Local 4 News starts now with a breaking news alert.
And I'm Karen Drew. We are on the scene right now. Breaking news. It's a house explosion on Detroit's east side. People started calling the newsroom just in the past 40 minutes. Victor Williams just got to the scene at Barlow and East 7 Mile. Victor, what can you tell us?
Well, this was a very huge explosion. You can see right behind me all of the people that decided to come out to figure out what was going on. Let's get you right over here to the scene right now. We're as close as we can get. This is what's taking place right now on Barlow. All of these investigators, the fire department, police officers, all of them out here trying to get to the bottom of it. Let's get you out to video right from Sky 4 that shows this scene from above, and you can just really see all the devastation from this explosion. We know that police, as well as those investigators and the fire department, they're trying their best to figure out what happened. All we know at this point is that there was some type of explosion, but we have no idea what caused it. So we're going to be talking right now to any of these people that we're able to talk to. We're going to see what they had to say about all of this. And then on top of that, we're going to try our best to figure out the cause along with the investigators once they update us on what's going on. So once again, this is the scene right here on Barlow where an explosion has rocked this entire neighborhood. Victor Williams, Local 4.
All right, we'll check back with you in a little later as you learn more. Thanks, Victor. On this Tuesday afternoon, it is a weather alert day, and we could see a little bit of everything in the next 12 hours. Right now, it's freakishly warm for February. Here's a live look at both downtown Detroit and Metro Airport. Temperatures are creeping to 70 degrees, but buckle up for the change that brings storms overnight and a huge temperature drop. Kim Adams leading our team that will be tracking it all for you, and there is a lot to talk about, Kim.
Oh, there's so much to talk about. We'll have two different seasons just within the next 24 hours. We'll go from pretty much, this is more like summer, not even spring, all the way back to winter in a very short period of time. Right now, record-breaking temps. In fact, this is the warmest we have ever been in February in history. 72 in Detroit, low 70s in Howell, 71 in Pontiac, and 69 in Adrian. But this warmth combined with a very strong cold front that we'll be going through later on tonight could cause some pretty strong thunderstorms. We are now at a slight risk. That's a level 2 throughout much of the southeast lower Michigan area, with the exception of up in the Thumb. They're under a marginal risk. Biggest threats: wind, hail 1 to 2 inches in diameter. That's anywhere from a quarter larger than a golf ball in some spots, flooding, and also you cannot rule out a tornado, an isolated tornado time frame. We are looking at a little bit later than we originally thought. So you're going to make it through the evening hours absolutely fine. So if there are things you can do outside, I would do them now because it will be totally different tomorrow. Good thing to have on hand will be your Forewarned Weather app. If you've not already downloaded the app, do that. And then tonight at 11 o'clock when those storms start popping up, love to have you have your phone in your hand and you can track storms right along with me as I do the 11 o'clock show. Karen?
Thanks so much. We always appreciate it, Kim. Now, luckily, that shift in the weather isn't happening until after the polls close for Michigan's presidential primaries. Republicans and Democrats voting right now to choose their preferred nominees for the White House. And there are also some local ballot issues to decide. So we're going to bring in Pamela Osborne this afternoon. She is keeping an eye out for any problems. What are you hearing this afternoon, Pam?
Well, no problems here at our polling location at All Saints Episcopal Church, but we did hear from a woman who had some issues voting earlier today at Pasture Elementary School over on Steeple. Now, she says when she got there, the building was closed. We went by within the past hour to check things out for ourselves. Pasture was open for some voters, but there was a sign out front saying that that polling place had changed for others and that folks should go over to Bates. This is what the woman had told us about, but she says when she got to Bates, she was unable to vote there because she was told it was not her precinct. Now, I do have calls in with election officials to see what's going on there with that, but I did speak with the city clerk here in Detroit prior to that issue being brought to my attention. She had a lot of enthusiasm about the day, about the process. Here's what she had to say.
Glitches are always happen, so opening on election day is always glitches, right? Sometimes buildings don't open on time. Sometimes equipment is in a room and no one knows where it is. We had so many of those today. In fact, I only had 2 that I had to deal with. And we know that's typically a less participatory election. However, if you take into consideration the 9 consecutive days of early voting,
And early voting, again, big here in the state of Michigan. More than 1 million ballots already cast prior to polls opening up today. We spoke with Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. We're going to have much more from her when we see you tonight on Local 4 News at 5 o'clock. For now, reporting live in Detroit, I'm Pamela Osborne, Local 4.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you, Pam. Our election team will be working tonight to bring you results as soon as they start coming in. You can see all the updates at clickondetroit.com. And then tonight at 10 o'clock, we are going to stream a special report online and on Local 4 Plus. Devin Skillion, Kimberly Gill, and Christy McDonald will be tracking the new numbers, the trends, and what comes next. Plus, updates at 11 on all of our platforms. Detroit's battle against crime will be in the national spotlight tomorrow. Police Chief James White is headed to Washington, D.C. for a meeting with President Biden. They're going to discuss the city's historic crime reductions in 2023. Now, we recently told you Detroit ended 2023 with the fewest homicides in 57 years. Now, the chief is going to speak with the president about his plans for the future as well. We'll let you know how that goes. Also today at the White House, President Biden had money on his mind. The government faces another partial shutdown in just days. But there is some optimism that might be avoided. The first spending deadline is this Friday, March 1st. The president just met with congressional leaders. On Friday, money will run out for agencies like Veterans Affairs, Housing, Energy, and the FDA, just to name a few. Members of the House don't get back to Washington until tomorrow, giving them a really tight turnaround. The president also says both Ukraine and Israel urgently need more U.S. support. The Senate already passed a $95 billion package, but the House hasn't considered it yet.
I think the consequences of inaction every day in Ukraine are dire. Congress's responsibility from the government. We got to get about doing a shutdown would damage the economy significantly, and I think we all agree to that. And we need bipartisan solutions.
We're very optimistic. I hope that the other leaders came out here and told you the same. We believe that we can get to agreement on these issues and prevent a government shutdown, and that's our first responsibility.
While Johnson says Congress might avoid a shutdown, he's not budging on funding for Ukraine. Today's White House meeting was described as intense, but Johnson says he still wants a U.S. border security deal first. However, Republicans killed a bipartisan border bill in the Senate. That was just a few weeks ago. Well, we are in the final days of Black History Month, and we are still sharing stories about the past that we should never forget. Today, we're going to highlight a Detroit church that was an actual stop on the Underground Railroad. Now it uses living reenactments as its museum exhibit and teaching tool. Let's bring in live Paula Tutman. She's going to show us how history is brought to life. You got our attention here, Paula.
Good, awesome. So think about this word midnight. That was the code word, actually, for Detroit. And so when slaves who traveled through churches, safe houses, and passageways from the deep south headed for Canada, when they heard that word midnight, they knew that that river was very, very close, and they were close to freedom. Where we are right now, we are actually in a church that is carrying on the narrative and the heritage of its second location, an actual stop on the Underground Railroad. It cannot be lost that the First Congregational Church of Detroit on Woodward, there is a precinct and voting going on upstairs by the people whose very ancestors stopped at the very lowest levels of the second iteration of this church during a perilous journey to freedom.
Y'all hear that sound? That's the sound of the pain and suffering of those slaves.
When you consider what the ancestors had to go through to get to freedom, it was not an easy task. It was very difficult.
This church was part of the National Underground Railroad Network to Freedom, also known as the Underground Railroad. And beneath the church, a museum tour that brings slavery and the fight for freedom to life.
Y'all ready to go get your freedom?
Today, taking the tour, a group of middle schoolers from the Mercy Education Program. They're given a wristband that says slave, and then they are taken on a masterfully crafted tour in the first person.
What star is that, y'all? That's the Northern Star. But sometimes you ain't gonna be able to see that star. The moss only grow on the north side. So if we couldn't find that star, we look down on the bottom of one of them trees and find that moss.
More than 100,000 slaves made a run for freedom.
But I done told you about bringing them packages up in here. You get me and Junelli in trouble.
I just came by to see if you want to go to freedom.
Relative few actually made it through. And our conductor, Bo, shows us why.
Where you come from, boy?
From Town Plantation.
Now, do y'all think we should take him with us?
No.
Yes. Y'all better think about the door of no return. Because if I leave this boy behind and he get caught, you know what he gonna do. he gonna tell.
Part artifact, part scenery, imagery, and performance.
Who's there? Who is that?
All historically sound. The museum tour is the story handed down from 200 years of slavery to the advent of the very first civil rights movement. The dangerous, agonizing march to freedom.
Somebody tell me what that sign say right there.
Michigan State Line.
Just got your first taste of freedom. Come on, y'all.
I feel sad about what they had to go through. It's different because you actually get to experience it, and in the book you're just reading it.
Little more than 150 short years ago. That's the history of this congregation. That is American history. And the tours are open to the public Tuesday through Saturday. We're going to put a link on our website, clickondetroit.com, so you can actually see how you can reserve a spot on that tour. But we're also going to have an extended tour that shows you why this is something you really might want to not see, but experience for yourself, Karen.
All right. Thank you, Paula.